Hey you guys, it's Donna from fedupwithfatigue.com, and today I am going to share with you the process for how I find good quality doctors. And this process is something I've developed over the years as a result of having so many negative experiences with physicians, particularly in the early years of my illness when I was still trying to get diagnosed. I was seeing a lot of different types of doctors, and there were some pretty bad experiences, with running into physicians that were very negative, that were very rude, condescending, not feeling listened to, not feeling respected, running into doctors where basically I know more about the condition than they do. So, this is my process, and it's not 100% successful, as I'm going to share with you later, but I have pretty decent success with using this process. And I did want to say that I do understand there are situations where a lot of people are not able to choose their own doctors. Like if you live in a country where you have government health care, I believe some HMOs require referrals and you aren't able to choose. I'm fortunate that I have a type of health insurance that allows me to choose my physician. So this is the process that I follow. And the first step of the process is to compile a list of potential doctors. And I've got 5 different ways that you can do this. And you can use one of them, you can use all 5. It's really dependent on how much work and energy and effort you want to put into it and what's available in your area. So number 1 is see if you have any local support groups about your condition. If you have fibromyalgia, do you have a local in-person fibromyalgia group? If you have Lyme, do you have a Lyme support group that's local to your area? And for purposes of this video, I'm going to focus on fibromyalgia and Lyme because that's what I write about on my website, Fed Up With Fatigue. However, you can use this process for any type of specialist or even to find a primary care physician, so any doctor. So, see if you have a local in-person support group. You can find these generally by doing just a simple Google search, fibromyalgia support group, and then your city, Lyme support group in your city, see what comes up. Another place to find these are meetup.com. That is a website where people get together in groups, and often I've seen those support groups on those. If you don't have a Lyme or fibro support group, see if you have a general chronic pain support group. Often people, particularly with fibromyalgia, may gravitate to those types of support groups. And go to a meeting or two and ask the members who their doctors are. And what you're going to find is usually there is a doctor or two that their names just keep coming up over and over. So when I was first diagnosed with fibro, at the time there was a fibro group that met at my local library, and I went there to a couple of meetings, and there was one particular doctor's name that kept coming up over and over and over. Now, I wasn't ever able to see him because he wasn't in my insurance network, but it was very clear that he was the guy in my area. He was the guy that everybody was like, you need to go see him. If you don't have a local in-person support group, another option is jump on Facebook and see if you have a Facebook group that's devoted to either your city or your state. So, like for instance, I live in Delaware. I know there is a Delaware fibromyalgia group on Facebook, and there's also a Delaware Lyme group on Facebook. And you find those, just go up to the search bar on Facebook, and I would type in, if you have fibromyalgia, I would type in fibromyalgia in your city name, and then I would also try fibromyalgia in your state name. Same thing with Lyme, city name, Lyme state name. You might even put the word support group or just support maybe. Just kind of play around with the keywords. Now your search results, when you go to the search results page, you're going to notice at the top they have different options. So they're going to have things like post, people, pages, groups. You want to look at, you definitely want to look at the groups tab and see what groups that are available, and if there are support groups, you want to go ahead and apply to join those. You know, sometimes you'll run across pages that have been set up by local people. You can always message the pages and ask them if they have recommendations for physicians. You know, sometimes you'll get lucky that way. Number 3, if you have, let me say one more thing about those first 2 options. So both of those options are relying on support groups and reaching out to patients to get their recommendations. And there's a reason why those 2 things are at the top of the list, and it is this. The members of the support groups, either online or in person, they are always going to know the best doctors. Without fail, yeah, every single time they're able to kind of tell you, and then they're also kind of tell you the doctors to avoid. So I consider those groups, the online and the in-person, to be just golden. Now, the third way that you can come up with potential doctors, if you have Lyme disease, there are a couple of sites that actually have physician databases that you can search. One of those is ilads.org. Another one is LymeDiseaseAssociation.org. And I'm looking at my notes that are behind me here on the computer screen, and want to make sure I had that website correct. And so those are options for Lyme. Unfortunately, the fibromyalgia associations, 1 or 2 of them used to have physician lists on their website, but I did check out their sites the other day, and those physician lists appear to not be there anymore. And frankly, I didn't find theirs to be very helpful, because they were basically allowing anybody and everybody to add physicians' names, and so like a doctor could add his own name, so you can see where that's not very helpful. So let me see. Another one is to reach out to your primary care and ask them, well, who would you recommend? If you have fibromyalgia, do you have a particular rheumatologist that you like? Asking your general practitioner is probably not going to be as helpful if you have Lyme disease, because they tend to be conventional doctors and are not familiar with the whole, Lyme literate medical doctor thing. But for fibromyalgia, sometimes your general practitioner can tell you a good rheumatologist. It's hit or miss, so I would just add their names to the list and keep going. And let's see, if you have family, friends, coworkers that have the same condition as you do, ask them who is your doctor. Do you like your doctor? Do you feel like the doctor is knowledgeable? And see what they say. And one that I didn't have on my list on my computer, but I just thought of, is myfibroteam.com. And that's a website where you can kind of connect with people that have fibromyalgia that are local to your area. Well, you can actually connect with people all over the world, but they have it so that you can drill down into your zip code, within so many miles of yourself, so you can connect with people that are local to you. So I'm sure they have a way on their website that you can ask that question as well. I will confirm that and put it in the blog post. So all of the websites that I'm referencing and such, I'm going to put in a blog post, and you'll be able to access that in the description box below. All right, so once you've got your physician list, what I do at that point is I go to my health insurance website, and I basically type in their names and see which ones are in network and which ones are out of network. The out of network costs me a lot more money, so basically anybody that's out of network, I cross off the lists and they're gone. Now, if you have Lyme disease, that particular step doesn't really apply to you, and here's why. Because most Lyme specialists do not take health insurance, so it's irrelevant whether they're in network or not. You're basically going to be paying out of pocket anyway. So But if you've got fibromyalgia, then I typically weed out the ones that are out of network. All right, so once you've weeded out the ones that are out of network, at that point you sort of have a short list. I would expect you would have 3 to 5 maybe on your list, maybe more, maybe less. At that point, I take those doctors' names, I go to Google, I type in their name, and then the word reviews. So Dr. John Smith reviews. What's going to happen at that point is you're going to get a bunch of results from these doctor review sites. And so some of the common ones are vitals.com, healthgrades.com, ratemds.com. You may pull up some reviews on yelp.com. Google.com may have some reviews as well, because some people just go to Google and leave a Google review. And I'll put links to all of these websites in the blog post. But again, if you do your doctor's name and the word reviews, or the doctor's name and the word reviews, these sites are just going to automatically come up. At that point, you want to read through all of the different reviews. And what you're looking for is a pattern of positivity, right? You're looking for a doctor who has mostly good reviews. I would say 80 or 90% good reviews. Now, every doctor that you encounter is likely going to have at least 1 or 2 bad reviews. That's just the nature of human nature. You're not going to make everybody happy. Not every doctor and patient is going to click, and so pretty much every doctor is going to have some negativity. However, you're looking for a pattern of mostly positive. Particularly pay attention to reviews of people where they're saying, they have your condition. I have fibromyalgia and Dr. Smith has helped me so much. I give those reviews a little bit more weight, because those are like my people, right? They've got my same condition. They're in the same struggle I'm in, and these are people that are saying, this is a good doctor, I like him. So that's meaningful to me. So weed out the doctors that their reviews are bad. Keep the doctors that the reviews are mainly good. Like I say, about 80-90% reviews are good. Keep those on your list. Now at this point, you should have a very short list. And those are the doctors that you would call and see about their availability to take you on as a patient, make an appointment, that kind of thing. So that's my process in its entirety. Now, there's a couple of things I'm going to add on to that, though. When you get to the step where you're typing in the doctor's name and the reviews, you may come up in situations where you, in the results, are going to be medical board complaints. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I was researching this article, I decided to type in my own Lyme doctor's name and the word review to see what came up, because I was trying to get the most common physician review sites to come up. And I noticed that he had a medical board violation. Clicked on it, and it was involving a patient where another fellow doctor had reported my doctor for prescribing what he felt like was too much codeine. So you guys are probably familiar with the opioid crisis and how a few years back the CDC put out this new guideline for opioid prescribing for primary care, and it got blown way out of proportion. And what's happening now is doctors are too scared to prescribe opioids, and there are doctors that have continued to prescribe opioids where they are being targeted now by their fellow healthcare providers. They're being turned in to the medical boards and such. And so that's one situation. If you're looking for a Lyme specialist, you are very likely going to run into a lot of the Lyme specialists have had dust-ups with their medical boards. And that's often because these are doctors that are prescribing long-term antibiotics for Lyme disease. Again, that's a very controversial issue within the medical community, and they will have their fellow providers or other people that will report them for doing that. Now, I'm just going to share my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that if they see that a doctor has been cited by their medical board, they'll be like, oh boy, no, that's bad, and it must be a bad doctor, must have done something really wrong. I personally, though, I don't discount doctors because of those issues. If they've been cited for prescribing opioids or long-term antibiotics, because I know that there are doctors that are being targeted every day for doing both of those things. So to me, I don't mark those off the list. You'll have to make that decision yourself. Are you okay with that? But I would definitely, if those types of results come up in your Google results, I would definitely read the complaint and make an educated decision on, if that's a doctor that you need to mark off to your list because you're not comfortable with his practices. The last thing I wanted to say is, I'd referenced early in the video that this isn't a 100% process. Some bad doctors do still slip through, although very few compared to what it was in the early days of when I was trying to find doctors. But I did have a situation in January where I had followed these steps, and the doctor that I ended up going to in January, he had actually been recommended by all right, so let me back up a little bit. You guys know that I've been dealing with something called intracranial hypertension, which is causing me to have headaches and stuff every single day. And it's a very rare condition. Only around 10 people out of 1 million get it. So it's extremely difficult to find a doctor who knows anything about it. Basically, most of the doctors I've been seeing, they keep trying to treat me for migraine, which is not what's happening with me. So because it's so rare, I actually reached out to the Intracranial Hypertension Association and asked them, what doctors do you guys recommend in the Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey area? And this doctor was on the list, and then I followed other steps and looked at his reviews. He got excellent reviews. I don't think he even had a bad review, actually. Everybody talked about how wonderful he was. He looked great on paper. He's actually done research in IH. I want to say like he had graduated from like Columbia or something. I mean, impeccable degrees, research background. I went into that appointment thinking this is going to be, finally, I'm going to have somebody that's going to get this. No. This doctor was like, as far as behavior, he was like in the worst 2 or 3 that I've ever seen in my life. He was horrific. I mean, he was constantly cutting me off, constantly not listening, talking over me. At one point, he looked at me and said, "Ms. Birch, do you have a medical degree?" Yeah. I have not been back to see him, and I likely will not go back to see him. So although this works very well, it's not 100%. Sometimes a-hole doctors do still get through, and he was one of them. So, but in general, the process has worked well for me. I would say I've only had a couple of occasions, situations where I ended up with a bad doctor, even though I followed this. So I think that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this content, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. I am going to be doing more video going forward because I'm kind of struggling with some cognitive issues, being able to write and research and that kind of thing these days related to the intracranial hypertension. So going to be doing more video, and all of my content is going to be focused on fibromyalgia and Lyme, maybe with a little bit of chronic fatigue mixed in. And so if that's if those topics are of interest to you, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And I'm going to sign off. Love you guys, and I hope you're doing well as possible. Bye.